Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. Quick info before we begin. Today's video has 2 stories and both of them have updates. Also, in the first post I did take some editing liberties to make it easy to read, but did not compromise the story. Now let's get started. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user Throwaway Honeymoon. Am I the a-hole for giving the vacation of my 26 male ex-fiancé, 24 female dreams to her sister and husband? I met my ex's sister in high school when she started dating my best friend. During our senior year, she got pregnant and they got married soon after. After high school, I joined the military. I served 6 years before getting medically discharged. That's when I started dating my ex, and I also got a good job that would have me leave a couple of times a month, up to 10 days at a time. Fast forward and we're engaged and planning our wedding. Now, while doing some last-minute wedding planning, a text from my ex's sister popped up asking, "Have you told OP about what you did with your ex-boyfriend? If you don't do it tonight, I will do it tomorrow." I asked her, "What was that?" And she just tried to play it off. I kept pressing her and she said that during her bachelorette party, she ran into him, but that I shouldn't worry because nothing happened. It was an obvious lie. So I went through her phone when she fell asleep. There were texts and pictures with him all the way back to when we started dating. They would hook up every time I went on work trips. I sent the proof to my phone, then I woke her up, kicked her out, and ended their relationship right then and there. She went through the whole cheater's script. I told her that her friend Stephanie, the name she had for her ex on her phone, looked a lot like her ex-boyfriend and showed her one of the screenshots I took from her phone with a picture of them together in my bed. She started to cry and I gently got her out the door. Right after that, I cancelled all wedding plans and needed some help calling guests to inform them the wedding was off. Later, my ex's sister, best friend's wife, told me that during my ex's bachelorette party, she caught my ex with her boyfriend sneaking away and having some intimate time. When she confronted them, she gave my ex the option of coming clean to me herself or she would do it. She thought it was a one-time thing and did not know it had been ongoing since we started dating. Now onto the honeymoon vacation in question. I had planned this trip so that it would be perfect for my ex. It was a 10-day trip to a country that she has always wanted to visit. She has even said that a destination like this is a once-in-a-lifetime bucket list place. There were nice hotels and amazing experiences. Overall, it was quite literally her dream vacation. Since I cancelled the wedding close to the date, I couldn't get refunded, so at this point, I was already out about 10 grand for the wedding, and if I cancelled the honeymoon trip, it would be a lot more. So, I made the decision to offer my ex's dream vacation to my best friend and my ex's sister. I knew they had never had a honeymoon or really never had any proper vacations since they got married young and had kids. Also, by giving it to them, I would just save money and time. They happily accepted. They were able to get the time off of their respective work and made arrangements for the kids while they would be out for the trip. Now, when my ex found out that I had done this, she flipped out and started blowing up my phone with calls and texts telling me about how much of an a-hole I am for doing that to her. That I knew that it was her dream vacation and that I have ruined her life. Then I started to get messages from her friends and also some of her family that she had lied to, telling them that I was to blame for the breakup. Her ex even texted me saying that I am not a real man and then he threatened me. I guess she must have gone to him last night because he shouldn't have my number. Anyway, I have not responded to them at all. So, am I the a-hole for giving my cheating ex-fiance's dream honeymoon to her sister and my best friend? Well, OP, of course you're not the a-hole. You paid for that whole vacation and it's yours to do whatever the hell you want with it. I think you know this, but I still appreciate that you shared your story with us. Now, about your ex, I mean, come on, the audacity to actually blame you for ruining her life because she was the one that was screwing about her ex-boyfriend. Come on, she's delusional, and I would actually set the record straight with all those family members and friends that think you're the one that blew the whole thing up. Now, regarding her ex-boyfriend or affair partner or whatever you want to call that idiot, I've read enough Reddit stories to know that if you have a written threat from somebody, then you should go to the police and get a restraining order. Even if things don't escalate from here, it's still good to have that just in case. And finally, I think giving away your trip is a nice thing for you to do. I mean, you could go by yourself or you could invite somebody else, but actually giving it to your best friend and your ex's sister who had your back the entire time, I think it's a great gift for them. So yeah, OP, in summary, no, you're not the a-hole. And what do you guys think about this whole situation? What is your judgment? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Possum Prince says, not the a-hole. I think he had to have known that gifting it to her sister would cause some tension. Her sister also could have rejected it if she didn't want her sister to be hurt, but it sounds like they already don't have too close of a bond. That said, my judgment would probably be slightly different if she wasn't married to your childhood friend. You paid for it, you couldn't use it, you get to decide what to do with it, and gifting it to a long-term friend is a perfectly acceptable thing to do. It's honestly just unfortunate that your friend, in this case, happens to be married to your ex's sister. Slight Flamingo 7697 says, not the a-hole. Report the threats to the police. Inform anyone that hassles you based on her lies that she's been cheating on you since the start, and you have irrefutable proof of the fact, including a large amount of pictures and texts and a witness. Tell your ex to have her affair partner marry her and take her on a trip then if she wants one so bad. She's his problem now, you don't owe her anything. Also, get yourself tested for STDs, just to be safe. I'd say the trip is a lovely thank you to the sister because you never would have known what was going on without her. It says a lot that she immediately stood up to her sister rather than hide it and even gave her the chance to come clean. She proved she had your back and stood up for what was right. She is a good person who saved you from a terrible marriage, so you did something nice for her in return. That's all. Goose Cooks says, not the a-hole, and OP, you seem like a really stand-up guy. With the amount of evidence you have, you must have been tempted to go off the rails with this and take some form of revenge for public humiliation. Instead, you straightforwardly ended the relationship. This is the high road, and good for you for taking it. Your ex should be counting her blessings that you aren't going scorched earth. As for giving the vacation to her sister and her husband, what a nice thing to do for your close friend and a woman who chose decency over family. That is not an easy thing to do, and I'm glad at least someone is getting something positive out of this, besides you dodging a true bullet and ditching your ex. Straight Singer 2912 says, what? She cheated on you and lied to you, but you're the a-hole? Talk about projection. Her regrets is not your problem. Block her, stopped contact with her and her flying monkeys. You turned lemons into lemonade and turned a bad thing into something good. Kudos to you. I wish you a happy life and consider getting some therapy for a little bit to work through this. You are in no way the issue here, not the a-hole times 1,000. Financial Note 9308 says, not the a-hole. You caught her and called her out on it. That vacation was supposed to be for the both of you, and since you're not an item anymore, she can just plan it anew with her current boo. Her sister and your best friend sound a hell of a more loyal to you than she ever was. Alright, well, the community obviously says that OP is not the a-hole, and they actually gave him a few tips as well. Now, OP didn't respond to any comments, so we have no additional context, which means we move on straight to the update. But before that, here's another playlist for you to enjoy after this video. Now, let's move on to the update. This all happened on the same night my ex flipped out about me giving her sister and my best friend her dream vacation. Now, one thing you should know about me is that in general, I'm a pretty calm guy. Like, I can be in a war zone and be calm. But in this situation, I was not thinking straight. I chalk it up to getting a bunch of messages from people I thought cared about me telling me off for doing this. It threw me off. Now, one silver lining is that due to my job, I have to get regular checkups, blood work included. And on the latest one, I went and got checked specifically for any STDs and all were negative. Anyway, I followed some of the advice I got in my previous post and got a restraining order on my ex's ex-boyfriend because of the threat he made against me. I guess it pays to have good connections with local law enforcement. And y'all were totally right. I didn't really have to do anything for the whole truth to come out. My ex ended up going to her sister's place the night after she found out what I did with the honeymoon, and she started banging on their door demanding all the trip information. When they told her no, she went crazy, screaming and yelling, and eventually she was detained when the neighbor called the cops. I later found out that during her fit, she actually confessed that she was just using me and that she never really loved me. Then she admitted to sleeping around behind my back. Did I mention they had a doorbell camera capturing my ex's fit and confession? Well, they posted it, and I ended up getting messages from the family members that had called me out based on her lies, apologizing. However, I got no messages from her friends, so I sent them screenshots of the messages I took as proof from my ex and her ex-boyfriend, and a PG-safe photo of the two of them together. Some of the messages also included her talking crap about most of them with her ex. After that, the ex-boyfriend showed up at my house trying to break in so that he could talk to me. He was drunk. I lightly self-defensed him and carefully detained him. Then the police came and he was arrested. I also have cameras with audio, so the charges that he's facing are assault, attempted breaking and entering, and defying a restraining order. So in the aftermath of all of this, she lost most of her family and her friends, she spent the night in jail, and her ex-boyfriend is going to jail. As for me, I was able to be set up on a contract that would get me out of the country for a month. Hopefully, my mind will be right by the time I get back. Also, my friend and his wife will be leaving today for the trip. I was able to get some of the more personal details of the trip changed into their name. I also paid for the hotel to put a cheap camera as a gift in their room with a note that read, "Remember to make lasting memories and document the journey." Well, I guess that's just as good as it gets. I mean, she confessed to everything and her sister actually posted it, clearing your name, and then you were able to expose her to her friends, which was the other cherry on top besides her ex going to jail for everything he did. So all in all, I'm gonna call this an awesome update. Thank you so much for sharing, OP, and all the best on your work trip. Take care. So now let's move on to the next post that also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Relationship Advice and it's by user Deleted. Rekindle relationship with my husband after neighbor's husband admitted being the catfish. Hello everyone, my husband, 35 male, and I, 30 female, married for 8 years, have been separated for the last 14 months and I need help and advice on how to rekindle our relationship. We are currently not on speaking terms and all our arrangements go through our lawyers, but I will have an opportunity over Christmas to clear the air and set things straight, as he will be flying in from Sydney to spend time with the kids. So what happened? I received a Facebook message in September last year that my husband was talking and exchanging naked photos with other women on Tinder. We spoke on the phone for a bit and the only proof she had was a screenshot of their conversations and his profile. Long story short, I downloaded Tinder and found his profile with his location less than 1 kilometer away. I was convinced that he was cheating and we had a terrible fallout that evening, which led to my family coming over to calm the situation. But instead, it escalated when my brother punched and grabbed hold of my husband. The neighbors called the police and my husband was asked to pack a few things and stay elsewhere for a while. We separated shortly after and he has since moved to Sydney to be closer to his ailing father, but sees our kids for a weekend twice a month. Fast forward to the beginning of November this year. My neighbor rocked up at my doorstep to tell me that her husband was catfishing women on dating apps using my husband's photos. He downloaded these photos from a MacBook that we lent him during COVID, and some of these photos were of intimate nature and of me. The police are currently dealing with this. All of this has been relayed to my husband through his lawyer, but his response has been lukewarm and he said we could talk about it over Christmas. I am so scared that we might be down too far the rabbit hole and that he will likely push for a divorce, even though I know that we love each other deeply. But this took a massive toll on our mental health, finances, and the well-being of our 3 kids. What is the best way to approach him in December and make amends? Oh man, OP, this is a really tough situation, but in all honesty, I don't think this is salvageable. I mean, what you told us happened that night was that you guys had a terrible fallout and your family came over, your husband got punched in the face by your brother, and then the police told him that he needed to leave his house. And now it's been 14 months of him living away from his children and just getting to see them twice a month, and probably everybody in his old social circle hates him or have cut contact with him because I'm pretty sure you told them he was a cheater. Having said all of that, there is one thing that's bugging me a little bit about your post. Usually, in these kinds of posts, OPs would tell us what the spouse said, the lies they spun when defending themselves, or anything like that. But in this case, you kinda skimmed through it just by saying you had a terrible fallout that evening and then your family came. Which kind of makes me think that you didn't even give him a chance to try and explain himself. You took the screenshot and the Tinder profile, which I have to say, in the heat of the moment, sure, it looks like evidence, but it is incomplete. And I'm also guessing that you didn't show him your proof, or else he might have been able to identify when the picture was taken and kind of connected the dots to his neighbor in the MacBook. So if you see it from his perspective, he got accused of cheating out of the blue, didn't get to say anything about it, got assaulted by your brother and kicked out of his house by the cops. And now that the truth comes out, you want to talk. So OP, again, I don't think this is salvageable, and if you do want to have any kind of relationship with your future ex-husband, try to make the divorce as amicably as possible. And what do you guys think about this whole situation? What would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Deleted says, your husband experienced something that you will never understand. A false accusation, an assault from your brother, spousal alienation, no right of recourse against the false accusation, a complete lack of respect from his wife, the loss of the life he had from a false allegation, parental alienation from his children, familial alienation from his in-laws, alienation from friends. The police were called and he had to leave. You separated from him. Your husband has already completed its grieving process. You ask, are you too far down the rabbit hole? Yes, I am afraid there is no going back for you. You chose to not listen to him when he said it was not him. Edhe421 says, yeah, OP, try to salvage what you can for him, but I think the way things happened have been very damaging. To be clear, I'm not blaming you for wanting to leave when you had clear proof, from your perspective at the time, that he had cheated. It's a reasonable reaction, but the way it took place seems so insanely violent and dramatic. You two got screwed over, not just by your neighbor, but also by your brother. Punching someone is never acceptable. It would have been a sucky and inappropriate reaction even if your husband had in fact cheated. Now imagine how your husband must have felt, considering it was entirely unwarranted. Being married is being part of a shared family. The fact that your family got in the middle of it and bodily hurt him would make anyone think twice about getting back in. If you really work hard on mending those bridges, if you ensure everyone takes stock and is accountable for their mistakes, and that includes your brother, then you might rebuild your relationship, but it will mostly probably take time. Janet in Spain says, wow, what a mess. I'm glad the police are involved in what that neighbor did. As for you and your husband, a lot is going to depend on two things. One, how much you both really do still love each other. Two, how difficult is it for you both to have a truly serious, heart-wrenching, emotionally exhausting conversation? His logical side will likely understand why you thought it was true. After all, there were pictures. It would be easy to believe it was true, but his emotional side is going to be deeply hurt that you didn't believe him over the evidence. All you can do is sit down and try to work through it. Good luck to you. And Dopey responds, thank you. I thought having a therapist present might help, but I have doubts and think it is better not to involve others. The aftermath was devastating for us both, and more so for him when his friends and my family wrote him off. I still love him and never stopped, but I know it will be on his terms if he is willing to give it another chance. I am willing to do whatever it takes. Don't139 says, I don't think you deserve to have him back. Reading your post, you don't blame yourself, don't acknowledge that this was your doing. It's your family's fault, it's not your neighbor's fault. You did this to him too. And if you don't realize deep down that this was as much on you than on your neighbor, why would he want you back? How could he trust you ever again? It's not about saying, I'm sorry, the evidence was just so damning, I was tricked. You have to realize how wrong you were. What made you go down that path and fix it? Alright, well apparently the community is kinda torn between yes, you can do something about it if you work really hard, and no, this is lost. Now, on that one response that we got from OP, we learned that the husband was absolutely ousted, which just makes me think even more that the husband won't want a part of any of this anymore. So now, let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. Hello everyone, I have had quite a few people ask for an update on what happened after we discovered that my neighbor was using my ex's photos to catfish other women. Unfortunately, after having sat down and discussed things, it was decided that our marriage was beyond repair and that we should go our separate ways. He is currently in therapy and has requested that we have a clean break with no further contact in the future. I intend to respect his wishes and will continue to communicate through his lawyer on matters that concern our kids. I have since cleared the air with our families and friends and still actively work towards repairing his reputation. I would also like to clarify the assault and why my parents came over in the first place. The night of the argument, I called my mother to ask if I could drop off our kids and if they could spend the evening there. But she was concerned about my emotional state and asked that I stay put and they would come to fetch the kids instead. They arrived and my brother opted to stay outside while my parents came inside to grab the kids and their bags. At this point, my father asked to talk to my ex and calm the situation, and my mom dragged me away to get the kids and their bags ready. My brother was very confused when he came outside and was triggered by my mom saying that my ex might have cheated. My brother reacted the moment my ex walked out and grabbed my arm in a non-violent way, leading to the punch and scuffle on the front lawn. He was remorseful and apologized even before we found out my ex was not to blame. It is a series of unfortunate events that has changed many lives and robbed my family of our love and happiness. Now I have to focus on my kids, my depression, and coming to terms with a divorce. I will never forget, but hopefully the pain won't be as intense. Willoughby, I know this might sound harsh, but I'm gonna call this a positive update for your husband. I am really sorry that your family's broken up, and I am mostly sorry for your kids. But for you, not so much, because apparently you don't seem to feel accountable for anything that's going on. Maybe when you do, coming to terms with a divorce will be easier. In the meantime, take care, Opie, and thank you for sharing. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.